The Law and You, a look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You, presented by lawyer panel P.R Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, greetings. Welcome to another presentation in this public service nation-building series, The Law and You. This is program number 856. Coming to you on Monday the 20th of March 2017. On this program, I will speak to you on the topic, the importance of evidence. But before getting into the topic, a few preliminary comments. Firstly, I would like to send out deepest condolences to all families which have suffered recent bereavements, and in that connection, let me send special condolences to the family of the late Brother Patrick Bowman, who passed away in England about 3 weeks ago, and who was laid to rest in England, but for whom a memorial service was held last Saturday afternoon at the Streams of Power Church at Sion Hill. Pat Bowman, as we fondly knew him, left to mourn, among other relatives, 2 nieces, both married to lawyers and both being lawyers themselves. So 4 members of that family, members of the legal profession. My condolences go out to my legal brethren. Then I have to say congratulations to all those religious persons who were admitted as deacons, commissioned as deaconesses, and ordained as pastors of the Spiritual Baptist Archdiocese of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We had a very lovely service the whole of yesterday, well, from 9 in the morning till nearly 3 in the afternoon, at St. Elizabeth Spiritual Baptist Cathedral at Belmont. Congratulations to all our new deacons, deaconesses, and pastors, including from our church, Deacon Williams, Brent Williams, Deaconess Norma David, and Pastors Mapp and Woodley. My congratulations to you all, and congratulations to Archbishop His Grace Frank Simon, who did a wonderful job. A very blessed time was had by all. Excuse me. Today happens to have been the birthday of Reverend Bridget Lamkin, formerly Bridget Francis of Paul's Avenue, ordained a few years ago in our Archdiocese. Bridget, I hope you have enjoyed the day so far and that you will enjoy the rest of your glorious birthday. Now, those of you who looked at the program last week, Monday, would recall that I dealt with the topic, the election petitions. And I had intended to say some more about that topic on this program. Unfortunately, we have not yet received any written decision from the Court of Appeal, which sat in St. Lucia almost 2 weeks ago. You know, following the hearing of the appeal, we were told that the Court of Appeal delivered an oral judgment, that is a word-of-mouth judgment, and the implications of that judgment are unclear. And I was hoping that by now we would have had the written judgment so we could have seen precisely what the Court of Appeal decided and the terms on which they have sent the matter back. In fact, up to just before coming on to the program, I was making inquiries, including going on the website of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court to see if the Court of Appeal had yet named a judge to hear the election petitions. Remember, one of the things which both sides came back from St. Lucia and said, they said that the Court of Appeal has decided that the election petitions would now go before a new judge. Well, we are waiting to hear the details of that, who the new judge will be and what date or dates the new judge will sit, and more importantly, what issues will be placed before the new judge. Because from what we heard from one side or another when they came back from St. Lucia, we can't be sure what exactly is happening. Do we go back to square one so that the petitions could be started all over again, including an objection to the form of the petitions itself? Or do we take it that one preliminary matter has been settled and therefore the new judge would have to deal with X, Y, and Z issues? It is very important because here we are 15 months after general elections with still enormous uncertainty as to the election process in two constituencies. And I would have thought, given the urgency with which election petitions are supposed to be heard, I would have thought that by now, 2 weeks after the Court of Appeal hearing in St. Lucia, that we would know a little more. So maybe we will get the written decision in the course of the week, in which case I would be able to deal with it next week, Monday. But if by next Monday we still haven't got anything in writing, that would be a cause for great regret. It would indicate that the matter is not really being handled as expeditiously as it should. And one of the important matters which I personally am still waiting to determine from a reading of the judgment is what the Court of Appeal meant when it said it found bias. Because the term bias is a technical term with several meanings in the law. It doesn't necessarily mean what the ordinary man might think it means, and it's important that we get these things clarified. So may I urge the authorities to get a move on and let us move forward. We need to end the uncertainty one way or the other. Okay, well, let me get on to the topic for the evening, the importance of evidence. I want to confine my discussion this evening to evidence in civil cases as opposed to evidence in criminal cases. Because usually the question of evidence in criminal cases is a matter mainly for the prosecution. Simply because our Constitution says that a person who is charged with a criminal offense is presumed to be innocent until his or her guilt has been established in a court of law or until he or she has pleaded guilty. So we know in criminal cases, proof of guilt is very important. But I want to deal with civil cases. And I want to bring it down to practical matters of giving you advice as to how to deal with your day-to-day matters in cases where there's the potential of the matter going to court at some later time. Most civil cases, the vast majority of civil cases, are won or lost depending on the evidence placed before the judge. You may think you have a very strong case going before the civil judge, only to lose. In most cases, you may well have a strong case, but it may be lacking in certain critical pieces of evidence. So that at the end of the day, if a ruling goes against you, it's not a question of blaming your lawyer or blaming the judge. It's a question that the evidence put forward in your case on your behalf may have been found wanting by the judge. Remember, when you go before a judge, say two parties have a dispute over land. You go before a court of law. The judge sits there. The judge, unless he has carried out a visit to the disputed land, the judge doesn't know the land. He or she doesn't know what you're talking about until you place the evidence before him or her. And if your evidence is shaky, unconvincing, how you expect to win a case? Because of what your great uncle told you when he was on his deathbed? And no, you have to produce reliable and convincing evidence. One of the things which I have been stressing, and you will know that from listening to me, if you have been listening to me, in disputes between common law companions, I would use that term in preference to the common law spouses, that is, people who do it. You've been with a person for 18 years. You all build a dwelling. Then later on, the relationship goes bad. You all mash up. Usually the man wants to chase the woman out of the place which they built together, which she at least says she helped him to build or renovate or to expand. The matter goes before the court. The court can only decide on who is to get what based on the evidence placed before the court as to who contributed what to the building of the dwelling or the renovation of the dwelling or the expansion of the dwelling. Okay, so you go to court. The man says, I worked for my money and I built my place. The woman says, no, that is not true. I used to work as well. How much money did both sides put in? The judge can't just rely on word of mouth. Do you have receipts for the monies which you alleged that you spent? Can you bring forward workmen to say you pay them and how much you pay them? Can you bring a contractor to say, yes, I received X amount from this person, either the man or the woman? Those are critical pieces of evidence. You can't just say you spent so and so without having anything to back you up. So let me give you some practical advice right now. It may not help you with monies you already spent in the past, but it might help you with monies that you might spend in the future. If you are living with somebody, and this goes whether you're a man or a woman, you are living with somebody and you met the person with their house, or you all decided to build a house together, and you are in a position to put money into the building of the house or renovating the house. This is the advice I'm giving you right now. I made a check through my legal clerks this afternoon. I asked one of my clerks, please telephone 4 stationery stores in town. Find out what is the cost of the cheapest receipt book they are selling. And just before I left the office to come up here to do the program, they gave me the answer. You can get a receipt book from as little as $2.95 to just under $9. A receipt book. What is a receipt book? A receipt book is a book in which you write down monies you have paid to somebody, and the person who gets the money signs to say they got the money. So think of, for under $10, you can get a book, and they're nicely bound. This is the information which you write in the book. The date, and this is very important. It would have a line for the name of the person who is receiving the money. Another line for the person who is paying the money. And another line for the figure to be written down of how much money is being paid. You don't need a lawyer for that. You buy the receipt book for under $10. And if somebody does any work for you on the dwelling house, and you're going to pay them to do the work, you simply write the date, how much you are paying them, what you are paying them for, and let them sign. When you pay them the money, even if it is $10, $20, $50, the person to whom you are paying the money signs to say, I have received $50 from Tom Jones for doing some carpentry work on a house, and the date. Person signs, they collect the money, they go about their business. You have the receipt book so that you know on such and such a date you paid such and such a sum of money to such and such workman for such and such. Now, if you go to the store, the hardware store, to buy building material, you will get a receipt. But the receipt would not necessarily have your name on it. What you should do, if you go to the hardware shop, even to buy a pair of hinges for a door, when they are writing out the receipt, in fact, they usually get it from the till, you can tell them, no, can I have a written receipt? And they will write it for you. They will push up the mouth a little bit because they may say a botheration, but never mind that. Ask them for a written receipt. Give them your name and address. So they will put on the receipt, received from Tom Jones and you of so-and-so, and the receipt will have on what it is you bought and how much you paid for it. It will have not just the date, it will have the very precise time of the day on which you have purchased that material. So that, look, even if it is some PVC elbows you go and buy for $2.95, ask for a written receipt and give them your name. You go and buy a quarter gallon of varnish, ask for a receipt. In other words, anything you spend on the building, get a receipt to show how much you spent, and the date. Because if at the end of the day, the matter goes to court, you know, one person says, look, I alone spend everything, and my common law spouse didn't spend any money. You have all those receipts to prove your case. You have your evidence. And once you have your evidence and you produce that to the judge has something on which to base a decision upon. But if you pay no attention to those things, you know, you go and you buy, you know, some tiles, grout, anything at all to do with the building or renovating, you have nothing to show. You had asked a fellow to come in to build some kitchen cupboards and put them up for you. He did that. You paid him money cash. He didn't sign any receipt. You have nothing to show. Later on, a few years after, you can't even remember the name of the person you asked to do something for you on the house. You may ask somebody to put down some tiles. You may ask somebody to put up a little back wall, put up some concrete steps, whatever it is. You need to keep some evidence of what you have spent on the house. Because the time may come when the real owner of the house may say, I alone spend everything. He or she didn't spend anything on it. All for the sake of not having your evidence. So if you are in a position where you have been spending or are thinking about spending money on anything you own jointly with anybody or on their property, get a receipt book and write these things down. Don't depend on memory. And you can't go to court with just memory. You need to have your physical evidence in the form of bits of paper. Now, I know that the person with whom you are living, if they see you in the habit of keeping receipts, they may get resentful. If you don't trust me, well, you have to write down everything for and so on. Never mind that. You write it down. It's for your protection. But if you see them querying that, one of these days they're going to hide your receipt book or tear it up or burn it up. So, what you do? You hide your receipt book. And don't think you're going to hide it in the same house, because if it's a man, he's going to wait till you go on to church, and then he start to dig up and search up until he finds it. Hide it by giving a trusted person living not too far from you to hold for you. You have to use your common sense, you know, because if you're living with somebody and the things are going well, oh, you're living, loving, and so on, and the person would say, look, you can trust me. Yeah, you can trust them as long as you all are in love and things are going well. But the day you all fall out, love gone. And we in the legal profession, we know what it is when relationships turn sour. As the saying goes, man does turn beast when things go, woman to it. Woman too, when things go bad in a relationship, people adopt hostile attitudes, hardly want to draw breath. And then the person you thought was such a loving, caring, attentive person simply becomes a total stranger, hostile, and wants to deny you that you made a contribution. So I use the example of a receipt, but in any other walk of life where you are in a position where you think, look, later on there might be a conflict, prepare for the conflict by gathering and keeping and safeguarding whatever evidence you may have. So that if push comes to shove and you have to go to a lawyer, you have things to take to the lawyer and say, well, this is my evidence. What else do I need? The lawyer may ask you about eyewitnesses, people who saw and who knew you did certain things. Fine, you take them to the law and you get their statements. But nothing beats physical evidence, written evidence. Remember, don't lose your case because of carelessness and not having the evidence to prove what you are saying to the judge. These things may sound simple, but many a person leaves the courtroom in distress, having lost a case, simply because what matters in court is not what you know, it's what you can prove before the judge to the satisfaction of the judge. Okay? All right, well, that is all from this program of the Law and You, program number 856. I look forward to being a further service to you next week, Monday TV, for another presentation in this public service nation-building series, The Law and You. Do have a pleasant week, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and may the good Lord continue to bless us all.
The Law and You, a look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You, presented by lawyer panel P.R Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.